Hello and welcome to video 7 of Life Unlimited, 10 Steps to Real Change. What I'm looking at in this video, it's a continuation of knowing ourselves, knowing yourself. And we did thoughts, we did feelings, and now we're looking at body and behaviour, two of the other incredibly important aspects of self. So we're looking at, as far as knowing self, becoming aware of what's happening in the body, being aware of what's happening as far as what we do behaviourally, and also looking at making some changes to make sure that we're in connection more in terms of the body, that we're enhancing those things that help us to feel good, that as far as behaviours, we're making sure we're doing things that are going to help us to feel good and balance the body, balance the nervous system. So just specifically looking at the body, threat, as you can imagine, that dominant threat place really adversely affects the body. It causes particular conditions, IBS, it's believed, is stress related, the effects of adrenal fatigue and long-term stress on the body, having anger in the body a lot, it puts pressure on the heart, disconnects us from other people potentially. Isolation is no good for our mental health and our physical health. The dominant reward play, so relying on particular behaviours and substances. We all know the effect of too much alcohol, too much drugs, too much food, exercising on injuries if we become addicted to exercise, ways of coping with difficult feelings that people have, so self-harm, those ways obviously very difficult for the body. Anorexia, body dysmorphia, all of these places that I believe are sort of sourced in this dominant threat place, and also the addictions and dependencies, the dominant reward place, have a really adverse effect on our body and really disconnect us from our body. As far as that disconnection and the fear and the anger, as I've said, whatever threat looks at, it finds a problem with. So if it looks at the body and it does that, it will do that a lot because that's something that other people can see a lot. So as far as what other people might think, the threat part will really fixate on that. We'll really fixate on our external appearance. And I think so will the reward bit, the competition part, because again, if it's something that other people can see, it's something that we can compare to others. So the threat part will absolutely can lead people to a situation where they hate their body. Hatred, revulsion, disgust, as I've said, are the feelings of threat, of disconnection. So people feel them towards their bodies. If you're only seeing the problems and the flaws and imagining problems and flaws, if you look at something like body dysmorphia, for example, then you will be in a situation probably where you hate your body. One of the reasons I was talking about gratitude and what I was talking about in the context of gratitude is connecting yourself to your body by being grateful for aspects of your body. And that's another point that I'm going to pick up on in this video too and spend a bit more time with. But as I say, threat turns you against the body. The reward part, when that dominates, the competition, competing with others, comparisons, makes our bodies either better than or less than others. So again, it's disconnecting, using the body as another way to disconnect really from other people. I mean, we might be feeling superior at times, but it's still disconnected. But often what will be happening is we'll be feeling inferior, unfortunately. So disconnection from the body, and what we're looking at during this video is really trying to increase that connection with the body. Interestingly, because threat is that place of fight or flight, the body is held in a way, if that part dominates, that's consistent with fighting unseen enemies or being in that stress state of withdrawal and avoidance. So things like shallow breathing, people breathe up here, threat breathing would be up here because it's that agitated, overly aroused breathing. Permanent shallow breathing that people have. There's hunching of shoulders because again, things are rolling forward, people putting themselves into a situation, a bodily experience of going to fight. Clenched fists, certainly clenched jaws is something that a lot of people are doing unconsciously. If this part's dominating, some of the mindfulness that I come on to talk about in the next video, some of the first things that they do on, meditations and mindfulness is to encourage people to relax the jaw. And relax the facial muscles, because if we're in this place of thinking stressed and anxious and angry and catastrophic thoughts, we will be holding the body in that way. And, you can see it in other people, and you can probably even see it in yourself, as I say, with balled fists, clenched jaws, those kind of things, and not standing up straight, not shoulders back, but shoulders coming forward, those kind of things. And those things can put our body out of alignment as well. So lower back problems, often those things can come with that dominant threat place, I think. So just doing some, I suppose, revision on what we're talking about in the last videos, that with dominance, with dominant threat, with dominant reward come being out of balance, the nervous system being out of balance, our sympathetic nervous system going up with danger, fight, flight, freeze, and then our parasympathetic nervous system coming in and to calm us down, but can make people under aroused, that place of hopeless and helpless. What we want is that middle calm and alive, the sort of rest and digest place where danger's gone. So we don't want over arousal, where there's impulsivity, that reckless behavior, reactivity, feeling uncomfortable in our own skin, or that parasympathetic under arousal that's kicked in too much for too long and we are low energy, hopeless and helpless. We want that nice middle band. We want to make sure that the seesaw, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems are we're in the middle. So we're not weighted too much at either end, neither frightened and angry nor switched off. We want this place of, as I say, calm and alive, of equilibrium, balance, that window of tolerance. We want to be within our window of tolerance, going back to that diagram that I put in one of the earlier videos. So we want to see the body as more than just a survival system or a reward system. I mean, of course, it is there for us to survive the fight or flight, the freeze, but it's got to be more than that. If dominant threats around, that is what it's going to be doing all the time. Unseen enemies, imagined enemies, monsters under the bed. And the body being held in that way, and the body being seen as an enemy itself. And as far as the reward system, that dominant reward place, of course, just seeing the body as a way, as a means to an end, as a way to get pleasure, as a way to get that high, to get that dopamine. That's the only part that that's interested in, at the expense of self-care, often at the expense of taking care of ourselves and our relationship with others. So taking care of our body is one of the quickest ways to this calm and alive place. What I've been talking about as far as thoughts and feelings, managing them, enhancing the ones we want. As far as the thoughts, affirmations, labeling thoughts, thought rewind. So really getting used to noticing what's happening inside us, letting go of those things that were problematic, the arguing, the catastrophizing, and enhancing those thoughts and feelings that we like and that we want is a really good way to get us into the calm and alive place. They do take quite a lot of work. It does take quite a lot of practice. It's really interesting in terms of the body. We can get into that place of calm and alive within minutes, even seconds sometimes. So the body is a really good way to get into that state of balance. A balanced body will generally have balanced thoughts and balanced feelings. I mean, feelings are felt in the body anyway. So hold that in mind. A lot of emphasis on therapy and that kind of thing, and cognitive behavioural therapy will be on changing thoughts, and that's why I started with that. It's very important. It's a very helpful thing to be able to do. As importantly, though, and quite a quick way to get our body into a state that we want, into this calm and alive, balanced state of equilibrium, is through body-based balancers, is ways of balancing the nervous system. And I'm going to talk about a number of those in this video and come on to that now. When you're looking at what you eat, for example, your diet's incredibly important. Sources of dopamine. So if we're coming away from those behaviours and substances that people might get addicted to, things like probiotics, less fat, more protein, they can provide more dopamine for us. So they're good ways if we're trying to move an addictive or dependent behaviour out of life, ways through the diet of helping ourselves there. I've talked about creative imagination, gratitude, those other ways of using thoughts and imagination to keep us in this kind of calm and alive place, to help us to feel good, which is going to be a helpful way of moving addictions and dependencies out of life. But certainly, helping our body to feel good through diet, through nutrition and through these other ways that I'm now going to talk about is a great way to do this. This sort of lower level reward for us, which is also crowding out the fear and the anger generally. If the body feels good, the thoughts are going to be less of the fear and anger and more of contentment, probably more of gratitude, just probably less activity in terms of thoughts if our body's calmer. looking at the gut. 95% of your serotonin, the feel-good hormone that a lot of antidepressants work on, is actually produced in the gut. So probiotics, the reason they're around a lot is they help in that production of or they may help in the production of serotonin as well. So research that kind of thing. Look at what you take in to your body as far as your diet, and notice that this isn't just about weight and what other people think of you and your body shape. It's looking at ways that when you take in whatever you take into your body, and your nutrition can really help what you feel, really helps what you think, and is helping your body to help your thoughts. You're helping your body to help your feelings, and therefore your behaviours as well. So as far as awareness of self, which I'm talking about all the time, this part that observes self and growing that part, and I'm going to talk about that in more detail in the next video, you've got to notice which nervous system is in play. I've talked about the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. So you need to know which one is in play in your body. So when you're starting to go up to that sort of aroused place of fear and anger, and also when you're in that place of numbness or switched off, what does that feel like in the body? At this stage, just being curious about it, just noticing it. And then, as ever, if we're in a place for too long, sometimes to feel hopeless, sometimes to feel helpless, sometimes to stay in bed for an afternoon or evening because you just don't feel like doing whatever it is, because things are very difficult in life, is an absolutely understandable and appropriate response to what's happening. But we don't want things to last too long. There are ways in which we can balance our body and help ourselves through our body to feel good, to change what we think, to manage what we think and what we feel. And that's what I'm looking at here. And I would say, put them under the heading of body-based balances. So by that I mean things that are going to balance our nervous system. So physical touch will do that. Oxytocin gets produced, the cuddle hormone, the love hormone, with physical touch. Massage, hugs, holding hands. That's why those things feel good. They release oxytocin, so they're a way of getting our nervous system into that calm and alive place. Deep breathing, again, I'm going to focus on that in more detail when I talk about mindfulness in the next video, but deep breathing is a really good way to balance the nervous system. Putting a hand on your heart. I think love, as I've talked about, is felt there generally for people. So if you put your hand on your heart, even for a few seconds, and sort of try and feel the sensations of that and the warmth, and try and move your attention to that place, again, that can calm the nervous system. It's moving attention away from the future and the past, which threat will tend to preoccupy about, or reward, saying, what do people think of me? Or I need more of this. How am I going to change this moment? It's moving attention to your body, lower down to the place where love is usually felt. I'm going to talk about, again, that in the context of mindfulness and focusing on the body and bodily sensations and breathing and those kind of things. But just in this place, focusing on different parts of the body, moving an attention down the body is a really good way to calm it, I think. And then, of course, there's yoga, light jog, stretching, laughter, singing, all bodily ways to put our nervous system into that place of calm and alive. So if those are in your diary at the moment, then great, but it might be worth trying to think about how those things are going to be brought into life. Just going back to how threat and dominant reward disrupt our relationship with our body and disrupt our love of it, our connection with it, it can be important to hold in mind with the body how similar we are to other people bodily. One of the reasons for talking about threat, reward and connection on the initial slide, and the fact that they're universal parts, is to show how most people are us really similar as far as our fundamentals. Of course, we are all absolutely unique. There is nobody in the world like you. There never will be again. Having said that, there are ways in which you work that are similar to all human beings. Most people get angry. People want to be in love. Whatever your race, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, age, ability, disability, whatever it might be, there are distinct and profound similarities between all human beings, and beneath the skin, it's all pretty similar. So I think it's quite a good way, again, your own body is quite a good way of connecting you to other people as well, as far as the similarities. And certainly, and I picked up on it when I'm talking about gratitude, but as a way to improve your connection with your body, to introduce things that you're grateful for in your body into your gratitude practice, which I've already talked about. So whenever you can, for there to be things you're grateful for about your body. The fear place, when it's either looking at others or looking at myself, is only focusing on problems. When it's looking at others, it's differences. And that's the same with that competing place of reward. It's just difference. So this connection place is looking much more at similarities between me and other people. And when it's looking inwards, it's going to be, rather than taking for granted, which is what the threat does, it allows anything neutral or good just to pass, as I've talked about, and only focuses and latches onto and imagines problems. What we're going to do now, as far as gratitude for my body, is acknowledge those things that are working away all the time to keep me alive and survive and thrive. So whether that's breathing, digestion, my senses, even if I'm, just that I'm pain-free, if that is the case, being grateful for those things, being grateful for being able to get around, to think, to imagine, all things that the body is doing all the time. And we have to deliberately connect with those and bring them into mind, because we will not do it, as I've said a number of times in the past, we will not be doing that naturally often. Certainly if dominant threat's been around, we will only be looking at problems. So we're not going to naturally be saying, thank you for this, body, thank you for doing this. And I think that, the thing that you're getting from all of this, I hope, and the videos that we've done in the past, is really not to take things for granted. It's to really ground the good in your life and ground the worth and value. And that includes all the great ways in which your body is working for you at this very minute as well. So that's the body. Just moving on to behaviours, that other important aspect of self. How you do life is key. It's very important to hold on to here. We can believe lots of things about ourselves, but actually what's borne out in our behaviour can be quite different. The threat reward behaviour is autopilot behaviour. Fight, flight or freeze, again, autopilot, automatic. Those behaviours and problematic unless they're dealing with an actual threat, which they very rarely are in our lives. So the behaviours that are consistent with that threat place are mostly unhelpful, very limiting, very limited toolbox there as far as behaviours. Fight, flight or freeze. And then the reward ones, of course, again, autopilot, compulsive, and if we get into addictive behaviour, dominating life with destructive, compulsive behaviour. So they're not very conscious behaviours. So as with anything here, with the body, with the thoughts, with the feelings, we're bringing into consciousness, bringing into awareness, bringing above the radar what we're actually doing as far as behaviours in life. And then deciding whether we should do a bit more of this or a bit less of that to make sure that we're in this calm and alive place. Limiting beliefs, that come with that dominant threat place, that come with fear, make me smaller, make me withdraw from things, make me believe I can't do things. So behaviour often follows through in that. Social anxiety, for example, will say that I'm not good around people. People don't find me interesting. People are dangerous. People can't be trusted. And that reduces life. It's that sort of ever decreasing circles of threat and dominant reward as well, actually. The behaviours that go with acting out are very limited, of course. It's just going to the substance, trying to hide having gone to the substance, go to the substance again. So they're very limiting. And if we're looking at this life unlimited, as with anything, with the body, with thoughts and feelings, we want to have this expansive, managed experience of how we behave and what we do. Is how you behave at the moment consistent with what you want to believe about yourself? We've looked at beliefs, we've looked at values in the past. Are you acting in accordance with them? I mentioned it a bit with value. So when I suggested to sort of hold values in mind, are you acting in accordance with them? If your value is to help other people, is that what you're spending most of your time doing in your job? If your value is to be more compassionate, if your value is to have better relationships, is that actually behaviourally what you're doing? If you do believe you're intelligent or a good person, is your behaviour consistent with that? If you believe that you can trust other people, is your behaviour consistent with trusting other people? So what is it that you do from when you get up in the morning to when you go to bed at night, including sleep, which is a behaviour? Is that consistent with what you want from this point on? And again, the point to hold in mind here as far as behaviours, as with anything, and the point I keep making, and will continue to keep making, is having a balance. That calm and alive If you can think about that in other ways with behaviours. So behaviours are going to keep you calm, and behaviours that are going to help you to feel alive. Having both of those in your life. Behaviours that reward, which would be the aliveness, the fun, the entertainment, not too much as far as addictions and dependencies though, but also having relaxation in your life for that calmness, to allow that reflection. We can't know what's going on internally, notice what's happening in thoughts and feelings if we don't have relaxation, if we don't have listening, if we don't have time alone just to sit with our thoughts and feelings, or go for a walk, whatever it might be. But to drop inside, we need time to do that. We need relaxation time. And I'll come on to talk about that more when I talk about mindfulness and the guide as well. So reward and relaxation, another way of putting it, being and becoming as far as behaviours, and ease and effort. So the being and becoming in behaviours. So a behaviour which is just about the being, that sort of present moment awareness, happy with what I've got around me, listening to what's happening in the world around me, gratitude for my body, and then the becoming. What is it, my goals? What am I looking forward to in the future? What am I trying to develop personally? Hobbies, that personal development side of things. So that balance of both. So we have both in our lives. And as again, another way to put it, as I say, ease and effort. So ease in myself, can spend time alone, enjoy spending time alone. It's nurturing. It's the way I'm working out where I am and sort of orientating myself in the world and working out what I love and what I'm going to do more of. And also effort. So the activity, what am I working towards? What am I going to build? Those kind of things. So we want a balance of both in life. So is that what's happening? Have a look at your life. Hobbies. Are there any? How are you taking care of yourself? How are you keeping yourself in this place of connection behaviourally with yourself? Where is your time for relaxation? Where is your time just to sit and exist and to enjoy what you've brought into life? Enjoy what you've created up until now. Enjoy the life that you've established. And then as far as the future, what are your goals? What are you looking forward to? What are you excited about? Goals and bucket lists are a good way to get that excitement and aliveness into life as well. Notice whether you're leaving decisions to other people, continuing that kind of parent-child dynamic where somebody else decides where you go and when and what holidays you go to. Are you doing that, or are you taking responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, bodies and behaviours in this case, and making sure that these are things that you want to do, this more inward out place. So what is it that you think you would love behaviourally, holidays wise, or activities, and are you taking those decisions in and really making them yourself? Behaviours which are great for that relaxation and reward, exercise and nature and the outdoors. Can't say this enough. A number of therapists now work as far as a walking therapist, so go for a walk with clients, and I think that's it's twofold. That's, of course, you get the therapy, but also you get that sort of calm and alive behaviourally of being in nature. So really important there. Most people enjoy nature. In fact, I don't know anybody that doesn't enjoy being around that, and there's a reason for that. It regulates the nervous system, it calms us, it's space, it's got that, as I say, calmness, but also it's alive. Nature is alive as well, so it's holding both for us. And then diet, again, I talked about it in the context of body a bit, but it is a behaviour, what you take in food-wise, how much water you drink, sleep, they're all behaviours. Sleep is just in a list here as far as things that we can do behaviourally to help ourselves and keep ourselves in that calm and alive state. But it's if none of this is going to be possible, really, if you're not getting enough sleep. So really focus on making sure that you're getting enough sleep, because if you're not, you're going to naturally be agitated, naturally in that overly aroused state or the hopeless and helpless state. The amount of time that you spend on social media and the media, again, very important here, very much around for most people, a lot of younger people as well. How much time are you spending on social media? How much media are you consuming? Most of the news that comes in is bad news media, because that's the thing that grabs our attention, the fear, the anger, and also some of the reward stuff. If you're coming away from the status and the money and the sex and those, a lot of the media preoccupies around that as well, again, because that's what we intrusively and automatically look towards. So notice what you're doing around social media, notice the effect that it's having on you with the point of view of dropping inside. Is it helping you to feel good? Most of us would say that we go onto social media because we want to connect with other people. Is that the effect that it's having on you? Is it regulating your body? So notice, as with all these things, the effect that whatever the behaviour is having on your body. And I'm not suggesting what it is you should look at or not. I'm just suggesting that you should do it consciously and know that you're making these choices consciously. The same with spending time around other people. Really good way, really good behaviour as far as regulating your nervous system. I'm going to come on to it when I talk about connection with others in a subsequent video, but we have evolved to feel good around other people that we love. We need to be around other people that we love and, that like-minded people, our tribe. So spending time around other people is a really good way to regulate the nervous system. As you can see that, with things like social anxiety, with that fear place, because we struggle to trust others, might discourage us from doing that. But, feel the fear and do it anyway. And it's very easy for me to say that, but important one to hold in mind there. Fake it to make it as far as being around others. If you put yourself into the environment around people that are largely kind, supportive, nurturing, then I think it's going to feel good. So really try to do that to the extent that you can. Feeling part of a wider community, that's related to being around others, but we feel safer, rewarded, connected, of course, being part of a wider group of people, whatever that looks like, a volunteering community. I think that's why people like sort of religious communities as well, but plenty of ways to do it. Are you part of a wider community? I mentioned it in the emotional needs inventory, it being an emotional need there. So looking at that as far as behaviours, a lot of people can be very isolated and relying on themselves to regulate themselves, real self-soothers, self-regulators, because that's how we grew up, having to do that because other people did not do that for us, unfortunately. So now noticing whether you are part of something wider, part of something bigger. It's a good way to notice your similarities with other people, to get reflected back your worth and value by others, and to reflect other people's worth and value back to them. So is that part of your list of behaviours, being part of a wider community, as I say? And again, continuing with that, synchronicity and attunement with others balances the nervous system. So I think the reason people like yoga classes, doing things in groups with other people, craft classes, going for puppy training classes, so synchronizing things with others, doing things in attunement with others, concerts, going to watch a film together with a large group of other people, going to the theatre. They're all ways of being in large groups with other people doing the same thing. Concerts, but they regulate the nervous system. They help us to feel good. So are those intermittently part of life for you as well? Helping other people is a good way to regulate ourselves, a good way behaviourally of keeping ourselves in this calm and alive place. Helping other people is a win-win. We feel good doing it, other people feel good receiving it. Of course, we don't want to get into a situation where we're doing it at our expense. Some people in dominant threat will be doing that because it's the only way they can get validation and worth and value is through the eyes of others. So they may do things and struggle to hold boundaries, but they may do things at their own expense. So it has to feel good. We have to be doing it in a way that's helping us to feel good. But, notice whether that is a part of life for you, helping others. And if it isn't, maybe just try introducing it in small ways, whatever that might be. It doesn't have to be strangers, of course. It can just be helping members of family or friends or neighbours, whatever it might be. Creativity, behaviourally, another great way to regulate ourselves, to have that calm and alive place. If we are creative, we're building something, whereas threat takes apart, disconnects things, finds problems and flaws. The creativity, gardening, actual, crafting, sculpture, art, writing music, designing a menu, designing somebody else's garden, thinking about what you're going to wear, all these flower arranging, all these things. Try thinking in terms of things that are creative because they're mindful as well, and I'm going to talk about that when I come on to mindfulness and the guide in the next video. But are there things behaviourally that you're doing that are creative in life? And then finally, looking at goals and quests. One of the reasons that I think coaching is very popular is because it looks to the future and looks at the goals that you want to achieve. Some people don't want to look back. I like the therapy side of things as well, because we can't understand why we're struggling to achieve things that we want to if we don't know why, how we work. And I think therapy works a lot more to look at why we are the way we are, the patterns that we have based on what's happened in the past for us. And then from that place, we can make more choices about the future. But you can see the popularity of coaching, because it's very much about what's going to happen today, what's going to happen this week, to make sure that I'm getting the things that I want and need from the future, and focusing my attention on that. So goals, quests, give us dopamine to achieve goals and to achieve quests. That's why gaming can be addictive. But having an idea of them, do we have them in mind? Are the things that we're aiming for? What is it that we want? What is it that we need from the future? What are we excited about? What does our ideal day look like? Do I have a goal within the next 3 months? Do I have a goal within the next 6 months? And certainly not to put a huge amount of pressure on ourselves to do that. Most of people's work is about the ease side rather than the effort. Actually, is about enjoying the things that I have now rather than what it is that I want from the future. But the point that I'm making is that we need a balance of both. And some people do lack the imagined future and the ideal day and working towards that. So having both of those, holding both of those, and goals and quests, knowing what they are for you, what it is you want to achieve and what you're headed for. With anything, enjoyment-wise, goals and quests, there's always the potential for a hijack of the reward system by the addictions and dependencies. But again, I'm going to talk about that in much more detail when I come on to enjoying yourself in a subsequent video. Okay, so that's bodies and behaviour. I hope that's been helpful. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the guide and that part of self, and I'll explain all that when we come to that. So I shall see you there.